everybody. My name is Scarlett Arana. I am the co-founder of BitBasel, the largest Web3 art fair here in Miami. So here I have Mims and to talk about a little bit about cultural and technology. So for the 7 days and 7 nights, we've been experiencing how artists are becoming evangelists to adoption technology. Who you are?
Yep. So Nathan Pettyjohn, founder and president of the VRARA Association and Applied AI Association. So we bring together communities of people at a global level to embrace technology, and it's an honor to talk to Mims. He's been one of the great artists that's like kind of embracing technology to a degree, and respect him as an artist and his perspective on this. Thanks.
I introduce myself as Sean Mims nowadays, but I'm professionally known as the artist Mims, multi-platinum recording artist, turned tech entrepreneur, as you can say, and I've embraced everything from technology to blockchain technology, and it actually feels really good to be here at BitBasel, what you guys are doing in the space for art. And what I like to tell people is like really why I'm most passionate about the space is that, and I think I said this earlier on the panel, that in life you have two types of people, right? You have conservatives and you have creatives. And in my space in music, I realize that there's a disparity between how creatives get paid and how conservatives make their money, and a lot of the money has been pushed toward the conservatives in the space, and not enough money has come back to the creatives. And it's always cool to be at events like this because you start to realize that the mission for everyone, especially in the blockchain space, is to bring that awareness back to the creatives and allow them the freedom to not only create but also get paid according to what they're creating. So kudos to you guys for doing what you're doing at BitBasel, and honestly I'm like happy to be here. The music is great tonight. The artists that performed earlier were great. So yeah, it's a great scenario, great scenery.
No, that's awesome. Yeah, and you and I have like an origin story, but I wanted to talk a little bit more about your entry point, because this is all about how we educate the masses about Web3 through the lens of a creator. So what is your origin story? How did you get into blockchain?
Yeah, I actually got in after I got, a few years after I got my first royalty payment, as they say. So my story goes is I'm a multi-platinum musician. My first year into music, I grossed over $18 million in gross revenue for my record label. However, the first check I ever received was probably shy of like 30 grand, or somewhere in the $30,000 range. And for me as a musician who spent most of their life growing up loving music, that actually was like a blow to my chest, right? So I think maybe like circa 2000, I went through a 7-year litigation with my record label. So from 2008 all the way up to like 2014-15, I went through this whole litigation period. And I learned a lot about the music business from the other side of it, and I had to pay for that knowledge. Coming on the other side of that, I thought it was my duty. I had a responsibility to people to my peers, to emerging artists, to basically create something or utility that allowed them not to have to deal with the nonsense that I went through. And that's how I got introduced into technology. So my goal was just to create music technology that would help people be creative. And then slowly but surely, that led me into blockchain technology, which to me, my biggest interest in it was, and I could remember getting my first royalty check, is the transparency, right? So we're talking about a technology that, in essence, allows full-on transparency. And anything that I feel like I can bring back to my culture to help it is what my duty is now. So even if I'm not building technology that is transparent, I can inform people on what blockchain is, and hopefully someone will take on that responsibility to build it. So, and that's pretty much where I sit in the space now.
Love that perspective, and I wanted to, we were talking about this a few minutes ago, right? But with artificial intelligence, being able to go out and kind of disrupt the creative ecosystem, creating new forms of music, for example. How do you think about this in terms of embracing the technology versus, hey, we need to challenge it and defend the IP?
Well, I'll say if you look at history, there's no one in life that's been able to beat technology at this point. I think the common consensus is that you have to embrace it. If you don't embrace it, you kind of get left behind, or you become a nomad per se. That doesn't mean that you have to live in the world of technology. It just means that you should understand it. And I'll give an example. In 2006, 2007, when I did launch my first project, I was more headstrong about the digital world. I was more headstrong about MP3s, where when I would bring this up in conversations to people, they would say, hey, if you don't sell physical CDs, your project is deemed a flop, more or less. And in the beginning, I got a lot of slack for moving more digital units than physical units. But if you look at where we are in technology today, especially as it relates to music, everything is digital. No one, unless you're talking nostalgia, no one's really worried about the physical aspect. I think AI just adds another layer to that, right? We're talking about a potential technology that will outsmart the average human brain, and probably right now. So we're not even saying in 10 years. Right now, it probably outsmarts the average human brain. And I think it's important for us to embrace it, because if we don't understand it, then we end up getting left behind. But I also feel like there's a dark side to it, right? So the dark side of AI in music is that artists are not protected. Sound, style, cadence, creativity is not necessarily protected in that world. And I'm hoping that the average consumer respects and appreciates how much effort goes into the creative process. I know you can't see some of the art installations that are off camera, but I would rather know that someone took their physical time to paint a picture, and I'm paying money for this, than to know that some AI thing just went and painted an imagery. So, hopefully there's a balance in it, but I do think we need to embrace it.
Yeah, and I've used some of these AI tools to, quote unquote, create songs, and it's inspirational because it kind of democratizes the ability for people to get into the industry. But as you said, there's got to be a blend there.
Which, by the way, you got to perform this. What is it? This is why I'm cold. This is wet. This is why I'm wet. There you go. But I hear what you're saying.
About that later.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
But I appreciate that. Yeah.
Yeah. So, what kind of advice do you give to incoming emerging artists, especially in the Web3 space?
I love Web3 because we're not dealing with the same. We don't have to scale the same as we did in Web 2, right? Web 2, 90s, 2000s, even till now, the numbers are, if you don't have 1 million in audience, then you're not necessarily making a dent in the space. And even with streaming rights right now, like the streaming abilities nowadays, it's the same thing. In order for you to even make maybe, let's say, $500,000, I think the numbers are you have to stream like 1 billion. Your song has to be streamed 1 billion times, and I think it's cool, but I feel like if you're an artist in today's space, you should concentrate more on community, right? So I can do more with 1,000 people supporting me than in my community than I can with 500,000 people supporting me in the Web 2 community. I'm not saying that I will turn away from the support that I'm getting in Web 2, but I know that as an artist, it's more beneficial for me to have super fans that can relate to me. So I think that's what Web 3 brings to the space. It also brings transparency, and it also brings the ability to reward your community in better ways than you can in the Web 2 space, to be honest. So there's a lot of pros in Web 3. I haven't heard of any real cons yet, other than the creation of a wallet, which is where most of the pain points come in. But other than that, I think that for an artist, for creative people, if you're not really invested in Web 3, you're going to fall behind.
Well, I really respect your opinion, your expertise. You're one of the greats, and so if there's ever an opportunity for either one of us to work with you to help facilitate kind of getting that message out, because you could influence a lot of behavior of the communities, like you said, to balance the ability to embrace the tech and defend it.
Once again, you mentioned VR, AR, VR. It's not just AI. It's not just Web3. It's also what I love about AR, VR is that I don't have to leave I would tell this joke. I've jumped in the Oculus Horizons a few times and whatever but I can be in my boxers in my basement, and I could be networking with real people. I mean, there's, shout out to Brooklyn, shout out to Howard in here, so in there, we've all met in the VR space, and, you could really sustain some good friendships in this space, and I think that's also worth looking at. A lot of people, a lot of artists or emerging talent don't have the ability to get out and go to different conventions, which we do invite you to BitBasel if you ever get an opportunity. But if you can't, there's other means of networking. So, it's all interconnected.
Love it. Well, thank you. Appreciate your time.
Thank you guys, and thanks for having me out at BitBasel. And you mentioned 7 days. We still got some more days to go. We're just gonna have some fun.
Absolutely, and thank you everybody for joining us at BitBasel 2024. We'll see you in the metaverse.
There it is.